So when you publish a video on YouTube, make sure you share it with your friends, tell them to leave a comment, do email blasts, push notification blasts, text message it out, whatever you can to get those views in the first hour. Because when you do that, you're much more likely to rank higher on YouTube. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you're on YouTube, click the alert notification.
All right. So Neil and I have been friends for many, many years. So this is going to be a very fun conversation. Neil, the very first question is about the three letters that all of us are scared about. SEO. Tell us, what should we be thinking about with SEO, and what are like the main mistakes that we're all making about SEO?
Sure. So, it's funny. SEO is one of those age-old things with Google. There's all these updates. They just recently released a core update, and that's considered like a major update to the algorithm. And in general, most people don't realize this, but Google makes 8 to 9 algorithm changes per day on average. Most of them very small. And that's a lot to keep up with. But it's that age-old marketing technique that continually drives revenue that a lot of us take for granted. And if you want to do really well in 2021 and in the future, even beyond that, there's a few things that I would recommend doing. The first is you need more people to link to you. And everyone knows link building. Link building is one website linking to another's. And they say the more links you have, the higher you rank in Google. But we've noticed a shift in their algorithm in which you don't need a ton of links these days. If you actually build less links, focus on higher quality sites, and you build them more slowly, funny enough, you actually rank a lot higher than those people that are just continually building links each and every single day. Because Google knows it's not natural to have, in many cases, tens and thousands of these links. So if you slow down on your link building, you can actually rank higher. And then the next thing that no one's really focusing on, and this one is big, is page experience. So they have this algorithm update coming out in 2021 called Page Experience. And they're first rolling it out with mobile. It's unknown if they roll it out to desktop, but I bet they eventually will. And Google's like, wait, we're a computer. And yes, as a computer, we're looking at things like keywords and links and authority of a site. But at the end of the day, the sites that should be ranked at the top are the ones that users love the most. So they're starting to look at the experience. Are users actually looking at the content, going to multiple pages, or are they just clicking the back button and going to the next result because they're not finding what they're looking for? So don't just optimize for a quote unquote algorithm. If you optimize for the user experience, in the long run, you'll rank better. And the last tip that I'll give you, and of course, we'll discuss much more than that. And this one is due to my friend here, Dan, who's interviewing me. Years and years ago, we did a branded campaign to get people to talk about me, Neil Patel. So Dan came up with a strategy called Who is Neil Patel? And he had everyone from makeup artists to big, strong fitness people. There's this one dude that had my name plastered on his chest that said Neil Patel. And then he made his pecs bounce up and down. And it caused a lot of people to Google for my name. And what this caused, and it was an accident. I didn't plan this. Dan didn't plan this. We were just trying to create a branded campaign. But what it caused was so many people to Google for my name and click on my website that Google's like, this person has a decent brand. And my rankings for keywords like online marketing and digital marketing, they shot up to the top of page 1. And that itself, through that campaign that I did with Dan, I think in total we spent 50 or 60 grand over a few months. And funny enough, the increase in rankings actually saved me more than $100,000 a month in pay-per-click ad spend. So it was a great arbitrage.
That's awesome. So that was a really fun campaign. I've been noticing every day I go onto LinkedIn and the first person I see is you. Every single day I see either a video or an article or a tip or advice. How did you get so involved in LinkedIn, and what was the change that made you want to go all in on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So when you think about the social web, there's a pattern. There's Facebooks, the YouTubes, the LinkedIns, and the list goes on and on. The biggest player out there in the social space is Facebook, which also owns Instagram. And there's this pattern that happens on most social networks. They're very generous. They get you a ton of organic reach. And the moment they have a ton of users, they're like, it's time for us to make more money. We want you to spend more on ads. We're going to crush your reach. Now, there's 3 social networks where it's really easy to get reach from. One is LinkedIn, one is TikTok, and the other is YouTube. So these three networks, although I don't really spend much on TikTok because it's more B2C, but LinkedIn and YouTube, I'm very heavy on. And with LinkedIn, we're just posting content all the time because if you think about it, it's the underdog. More people talk about TikTok, more people talk about Instagram or YouTube or Facebook. Very few people talk about LinkedIn. And I know it's a B2B network, but you have to remember everyone on there is also a consumer. We all buy toilet paper. We all have toothbrushes and toothpaste and basic necessities. So if you just create content on there, you're going to get love. The last stat that I looked up, and I don't know how accurate it is now, but it was a few months ago. I was finding an article and it was saying something like roughly only 3% of users on LinkedIn are creating content. Only 3%. So they're like starving for this content. They just want more. So it's like, if you want to be part of that 3% and you want to give us content, we'll just show it to a lot of people because we're the underdog. Instagram and Facebook and all the other platforms, they don't have that issue where a very, very small percentage is only creating content. So just go out there and put anything on there and you'll do well. I know that sounds bad, but it's the reality.
Yeah, it's fascinating on LinkedIn is sometimes I'll get 1,000 views, 4,000 views, then I'll get 39,000 views. And at one time I got 250,000 views. And I was like, wow, this is exciting because that doesn't really happen on the other platforms. Facebook doesn't really let you go viral anymore. Instagram, you can't go viral anymore. Like besides TikTok and LinkedIn, you can't just have that viral effect. And what's really interesting is on LinkedIn, when I get 8,000 views, that's 8,000 business people, right? It's fun to get it on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, et cetera, but that's 8,000 everybody, right? That's to the masses. You don't know who's watching. On LinkedIn, everybody has a job or they want a job, they have a career, they are someone or something that's usually above 25 years old. So it's much more fascinating when you get those views on LinkedIn. Okay.
Exactly. You
Next
got it right.
platform, YouTube. You mentioned YouTube. YouTube seems to be the one that people have the most struggle with because you actually have to create long form content and people are nervous about that. Even though they have the expertise inside of themselves, a lot of times they won't spend the time to put that content out there on YouTube. I always say, well, the #1 search engine in the world is Google and it owns the #2 search engine in the world, YouTube. So they're usually going to pull up the YouTube content. That's why you want to do it. What are your thoughts on YouTube and what can people do to not be so scared?
The way I see it is if you're going to create content on Instagram, you're going to create content on Facebook, put the same content up on YouTube if it's video based. And when we create video content, we put it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, sometimes Twitter. You can also put it on TikTok, but we just spread it on all the social networks. And what's interesting about YouTube is you don't need to create 20, 30, 40-minute videos. Sure, they do great, but even 5-10 minute videos do better or do well. And ideally 10 does better than 5. But somewhere around that range, you're going to be fine. And just bust out your phone, and just record yourself and put it up there. The guy who really brought the phone to light was Tai Lopez. He would just put out his phone and just start recording on Instagram and YouTube and stuff like that. And what you'll see is people on YouTube don't care for professionally edited videos or anything like that. Like they're just happy with people that bust out their phone and just go record a video and put it out there. So the first thing is if you're going to create content, might as well just create content for all the networks. And as long as your videos are under 10 minutes, it'll also work for like LinkedIn. Anything over 10 minutes, LinkedIn doesn't like it. The second thing is their algorithm is a lot different than traditional Google search engine, in which on YouTube, if a video does really well in the first hour and even the first 24 hours, the video ranks really highly right away. Exactly. And then while with Google, it could take 6 months to a year to get results. So when you publish a video on YouTube, make sure you share it with your friends, tell them to leave a comment, do email blasts, push notification blasts, text message it out, whatever you can to get those views in the first hour. Because when you do that, you're much more likely to rank higher on YouTube. And then you just want to include the right keywords. You can do keyword research. There's a lot of tools from Ubersuggest to Ahrefs, SEMrush. Just go type in some keywords, relate to your video, and it'll tell you what's popular. And then boom, include them in your video. Like we're talking about SEO and marketing. If this video is uploaded to YouTube, because we mentioned marketing and all those words, it'll naturally start ranking for those keywords.